1,000 young people over the next year, before the end of the year, as Jubilee Fellows, to be part of the program. So we're going to make sure that we can train and deploy 1,000 fellows as learned. So that's our own commitment to the Jubilee Fellows program. So thanks everybody for listening to us, and thank you.
What happened to your mic?
Well, thank you very much. And thank you very much to our very great panelists for their thoughts, for their commitment, and for helping our Jubilee Fellows program participants to be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel as they journey from training to jobs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please remain on stage. Please remain. Let me invite Ms. Atafwa, please join us for the photograph. Let me also call the head of EU delegation here, Massimo Di Luca. If you're here, please join us for the photograph with them. SSAP on delivery and coordination to the President, Office of the Vice President at Akubo Adebe to also join the photograph here. Thank you very much to the panel. We appreciate you. Thank you. We will have a short poetry session. Hafsat Abdullahi, known as Hafi, model, presenter, speaker, and poet, will be coming here in the next 3 minutes or thereabout to deliver a short poem. Hafsat, if you're in the room, please step over. Okay, so Hafsat is not coming yet. Let me also announce that we are going to now go into our breakout sessions. The first one will be on from skills to jobs and enterprises, driving youth employment and entrepreneurship in key economic sectors. That will hold here. That we hold here. The second one, just room opposite this hall, will be on economic policy and institutional coordination. So you make your choice now if you have the program. Hafsat, we have sent DSS to look for you. Eh? Yes, can you do it in 3 minutes? Okay, so distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Hafsat Abdullahi.
They called us risky, unscalable, and unbankable. But bank on this. We stitched businesses with borrowed hopes, planted seeds on soils that never favored our seed, but still we bloomed from the looms of the dooms designed to slow us down, and from down we rose, surviving anything and creating everything from nothing, because we refuse to be an option. We refuse to be an exception. As we fearlessly champion inclusion, see, we are the rumbling of 1,000 working women, the hope of 1,000 working men, and the sweat of 1,000,000 working youth. See, we are the founders who founded futures with just our phones and our fire. And no, we do not tire or retire, for this is just the beginning of our untold stories. Stories of families and communities demanding change and not charity, earning respect and not pity, from the corners of our marketplace to the chats of our fan base, from hashtags to handshakes, we're rising and changing the narrative of primitive because we are NJFP. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, apologies. My name is Hafsat Abdullahi, and due to the little time, please permit me to stand on the already firmly established protocol before I walked in. The title of my spoken word piece proper is People Like Me. And without further ado, here it goes. I do not think I am lucky. I do not think some breeze of fortune lost her way and wandered onto my palms, cause people like me don't get too many chances. People like me are born with too many inadequacies. People like me are constant acquaintances to inconveniences. Youths like me are like walking currencies, sustainable entities, young, vibrant, talented, goal-oriented, passionate, compassionate. So what if we're good people? What if all of that and more than what to do with a basket full of limitations? What to do with aspirations in poor health and poor education? Tell me, how do you chase dreams on empty stomachs? Of what use is talent? Of what value is potentials? What gain is an intelligence with no exposure? What to do with no ways to school? What to do with ideas and no tools? What to do with a handful of means and a pinch of means for these dreams to come true? See, youths like me are like diamonds in the rough of unfavorable circumstances. We're like fertile lands with no seeds, dreamy houses with no doors, survivors to the core. See, I am not of riches, not of silverwares or golden spoons. See, I bloomed from doom. I was born in dirt, mud and clay. So if today I am hurt, if today I get to be anything other than a liability to society, speak any language other than poverty, if today I get to have a say on behalf of people like me, I'd say that people like me don't get lucky. Because for people like me, luck is like a random sunshine and a clip of a blue moon, a compensation for a determined doom. And on this race for life, for growth, and for the future, people like me need more than talent, more than motivation, more than big hearts and big dreams. So we need means for these dreams to come true. And that is what NJFP 1.0 has been tackling. They did not just open doors, they created them. When Nigerian youth planted seed, NJFP watered them. And today, these hopeful seeds are growing their way out of the concrete floor of lack to take back their share of the future. But this fight is not over. Because now more than ever, we need the commitment, and we need to reinforce our commitment from partners and people like me and you who see through with this vision. Because somewhere in Nigeria, a youth is still jobless. And as much as we talk about limitation, joblessness is the limitation of all limitations. It is the prison of inadequacies, a purgatory of inconveniences, where a youth is tortured with the reality of a future he cannot dare. It's a place to fail, a place where you can see your dreams with pockets too crippled to take you there. It is to aspire and retire, because your goals makes you perspire each time you watch them expire before you. It's true that youths are capable of so much when enabled help that are sustainable. But dreams are only feasible when affordable, and aspirations are only attainable when reachable. And even though NJFP breeds hope for Nigerian youths, we need to keep it sustainable. So to everyone in the room today, including myself, I urge us all to reinforce our commitments to this beautiful initiative. And I'm not demanding, I'm explaining that if productive and inclusive and sustainable workforce is too high a price to pay today, then lawlessness is a debt we'll have to pay another day. I'd say we act today. I'd say we invest today. I'd say together, let us build a national sustainable workforce for the future. And to the youth in the room, I'd like to close with this. It is one thing to advocate for collaboration and for support, but it's another thing to utilize this support to the best of your ability. So I encourage all the youth in the room today, become the change you're advocating for. Become the goals you're striving for, fighting for. Become dreams materializing into realities, goals growing into possibilities, and actions yielding productivity. Become the pillars for this nation's building. the root for this country, become the peace to keep the peace. Gather whatever ideas to help us cope, whatever skills to revive hope, become hope. Become the reason why your motherland will try again. Become the reason why your brother man will strive again. Try again. Become whatever you need to become to feel inspired again. Become the voice of consciousness. Become ambassadors, inventors, innovators. Become champions, gold medalists, specialists. Become independent. Rule your world. Become kings. Become queens. Become the next big thing. Become home. Become the new Nigeria. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Let's make the applause very poetic. Well done, Hafsat. Thank you very much. Thank you. We are going into our breakout sessions now. My friend, the man who has been running around, I'm very sure he has walked 10 kilometers within this place, organizing things. Afolabi Mokode will organize this breakout session.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Your Excellencies. Without much further ado, there will be two sessions right now as part of the high-level dialogue. There is the panel session, Sectoral Opportunities for Job Creation, that will hold in this room, and I'll introduce the speakers shortly. And the other panel session that will hold simultaneously is the one on governance, economic policy, and institutional coordination. That will hold right there in the next room. I'm told that some of us already got invitations to let you know the panel you belong to, but I will do some announcements here now. For the session on governance, economic policy, and institutional coordination, in that panel, we have Mrs. Oduayo Sonya, the Executive Director of MTN Foundation, Dr. Tayo Aduloju, the CEO of NESG, which is Nigeria Economic Summit Group, Mrs. Miriam Uwais, MFR, the former Special Advisor to President Buhari on National Social Investment, and now the Consultant to the UN on Strategy and Poverty Reduction, Mr. Mark Okoye, the MD CEO, Southeast Development Commission, Honorable Minister of State, Honorable Nkiruka Onyeje Ocha. I also have Miss Sherifat Balogun, the Director of Strategy and Fundraising for Lagos State Employability Trust Fund, LSETF. Mrs. Teju Abisoye, the National Coordinator of the National Talent Export Promotion, NATEP. All of them will be speakers in the panel next door. So you can begin to make your way there, and everyone that is in that space, in the government space, in the public policy space, in the economy space, at the subnationals, as you sit in the audience, please join us in the breakout session directly opposite there. That panel will be moderated by no other or the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Delivery and Coordination, Mr. Akuba Adegbe. I'm also expecting Nasiru, the SSA to the President on Innovation, to join that room. I'm expecting all our guests from the Tony Blair Institute, TBI, to join that room. So please, yes. Please, let's begin to make our way to that room. Now, in this room is the panel on, yes. So the fellows, I think they split you. So if you got your invitation to be panel 2, please join that room. Otherwise, whoever is coordinating the fellows, you can split the fellows. Some will be there, some will be here. Now, for those in this room, which is the panel session on sectoral opportunities for job creation. In that panel, we have Dr. Shukbo Olusi, the Chief Executive of the Bank of Industry, Mr. Deji Ali, the Chairman of ARM, Ms. Aisha Aoji, Director General, Civil Center for Black and African Arts and Civilization, CBAC, Mr. Obi Asika, the DG, National Council for Arts and Culture, and the Special Advisor to Mr. President on Energy and Energy Transition, Mrs. Oluvainjen. They will be here, and we'll be inviting them to the panel very shortly. But please, if you are in this room to join the panel session, can we just move? Can everyone move to the left? Can we just move let's take it from this row, the barricade row, that way, so that we are centralized with the panelists. So the last person should sit on this row of the barricade, and let's come forward. Let's remember the closing plenary will hold in this room, and everyone is going to be back here in the room. These panel sessions are 50 minutes each, holding simultaneously, and then we would all congregate back here in the room. Stella, you need to be in this room. Yes, ma'am. Excellency, you're needed in this room. Thank you. So please just fill up the spaces, and then we will get started right away. Okay, please, the ushers, can we just have you move everyone forward? I think we have a good sizable number. So I have also the pleasure to moderate this panel. So yes, I think that's fine. The fellows here are okay. We have enough fellows here. Yeah, that's fine. You don't need to move anyone out again. I think we're good. We're good. We're good. Can we have order in the room, please? Okay. So I think we should just go right ahead to bring up our speakers for this panel. So let me invite the Managing Director of Bank of Industry, Dr. Shukwa Lucy, who is represented here now by Special Advisor on Strategy, Leonard Kange. Can you please come up? Let me also have Mr. Deji Ali, the Chairman of ARM. Please come up, sir. Let me also have Ms. Aisha Auji, Director General Center for Black and African Arts and Civilization. Can we give them a round of applause as they come up, please? Also, Mrs. Oluvainjen, the Special Advisor to Mr. President. I don't think she's here with us yet. Mr. Obi Asika DG, National Council for Arts and Culture, please. Yes, sir. So do we have one house now, please? Hello, 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 hello. So, good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. We're welcome to one of the panel sessions on for today's National Dialogue, and this panel session will be focusing on sectoral job opportunities for job creation. We know that to create jobs, we need to work in various sectors. With the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President, there are a few sectors, priority sectors that we're looking at the agri sector, we're looking at the creative economy, we're looking at digital economy, we're looking at the energy, alternative energy. That's a sector. We're also looking at the construction industry, and certainly the arts and culture is also a very big sector that we're exploring for opportunities for job creation. And so today, what our panelists will be doing will really be to just explore for us, unpack for us what are the opportunities. The world is fast changing. The traditional world used to be that if you're not a doctor, you're a lawyer. If you're not a lawyer, you're a nurse. If you're not a nurse, you are an engineer and what have you. Now, within those broad spectrum, as much as those jobs are still very important, and within those broad spectrums, what you are finding now is that the value chains have become very expanded, and there are a whole lot more opportunities within the sectors of those value chains. And so what our panelists will be doing today is really to explore or bring to the fore some of those opportunities that may not be it may not be very clear to us, but they will discuss some of those opportunities. And so I'm going to start. I was speaking with them earlier that the arts and culture seem to have the greater representation on this panel today. So I'm certainly going to start with them as well. But before we do that, I would just want each of our panelists, each of our speakers, to just give a 1-2 minutes introduction about themselves and their work before we delve right into the panel. And I'll just start from my far right, and that's Mr. Obi Asika. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Obi Asika, DG at the National Council for Arts and Culture, which is the convening agency on the culture side of the Federal Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and Creative Economy. So we have an overview over the creative economy, which is about, depending how you look at it, is well over 50 sectors of the Nigerian economy.
Thank you. Okay, sir. Mr. Ali.
Okay. Deji Ali, founder and chairman of ARM, Investment Managers.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello, fellows. Hi.
We're not responding.
They are.
Yeah. Are you respond? Yeah, please take it again and let them respond. Yeah.
Oh, hello, fellows. My name is Aisha Adamu-Augi, the Director General at the Center for Black and African Arts and Civilization, but I'm also a photographer, a filmmaker, a journalist, and many other things that I hope you guys will learn from later. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Leonard Kange. I'm the special advisor to the MD CEO. He sends his regret. He was here earlier for the session, but he had another engagement, so he had to leave. So sorry, you're stuck with me. I think everybody knows Bank of Industry. We're government-owned policy bank. Our job is to support industry, manufacturing, all the various sectors, particularly sectors that have catalytic potential, like agriculture, like technology, like creative sector, etc., which are the areas that we are discussing today. So I'm looking forward to sharing what opportunities there exist in those various sectors and what BOI is doing to ensure that our youth are engaged. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My dear sister Stella, I was going to drag you up, but I know you are part of the next panel, so I don't want to overuse you today, but we're going to throw some questions to you along the line anyway. You will support us. Okay, so thank you. I'm going to go back again to our panelists now, and really just now, the audience is made up largely of our fellows, our young people, some who are still in the program, some who have become alumni, who certainly are just beginning their career and are all seeking to explore various opportunities. Incidentally, where we watched the opening video, we did see there There are a lot of them do actually explore entrepreneurial opportunities now. A lot of them obviously also have their own inbuilt talents, so wherein you find out that you can do more than one thing. So I would want us with this in mind and having this audience in mind, I'm going to have each one of us as well to now to speak on behalf of our sector. And what are the opportunities? We know what you do, we know your roles now, but what are the opportunities in the sector that you represent? So again, I would have, maybe I should have Ajia go first now. Aisha, let me have you go first. Yeah.
Okay, so I currently run the Center for Black and African Arts and Civilization, CBAC in Lagos. And it's a Pan-African agency that was brought together in 1978 after a festival of Black and African culture in Lagos. We had 59 countries come from all over the world representing each other in Nigeria. So you can imagine how big that was, with over 60,000 participants, 300,000 audience, the whole world was watching. And so what we do is we house all of those items, historical items. We have an archive, we have a research and publication unit, we have a children's section, various other things. Our job is to promote, preserve, and propagate African history, culture, and civilization, while also trying to build the contributions of Black and African people in the diaspora. But that being said, we are not just about one sector at the Center for Black and African Arts, because as you're seeing, we talked about arts, history, culture, civilization. What values, what have we added as Black and African people to the growth of the world through civilization? And so for me, we cut across all sectors. And I'll speak from the perspective of creative integration. If today you have an architect, right? An architect is a designer. Someone who's designing, he's seen something in his mind and wants to bring it to life. That person is a job enabler, right? The same with a musician. You saw M.I. Abaga here, who has pivoted not just from creating, but actually creating jobs for others. So what we would love to see is how we can support whatever sector grow with the values that can come through our arts, our culture, and design thinking. So I'll say specific to the architectural example that I gave. As an agency, we have an announcement coming out soon to do a call for young people to come for a training on Pan-African indigenous architecture, both interior and exterior. And the reason we did that was because we saw that there was a huge value chain across that space that would be able to connect with our culture, with our arts, and with what we can create. Everything from basket weaving to bronze making, down to tile making from Morocco, for example. These are all enablers that by the time someone creates with that in mind, he's able to create jobs for us within the creative and cultural sector. And our hope is to expand on that, to continue to ensure that jobs are created across other sectors with our thought process in mind. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me yield the floor to Mr. Lee. And I know in recent years, you've been very heavily invested in real estate, construction and the like. So what would you say to us or to the audience really about the opportunities that abound in that sector, in the housing sector?
Okay, so thank you very much, Falabi. So my coverage is real estate and infrastructure. So I think a little bit of context setting is important. And I think it's good to do that for two reasons. The first is that if you look at the GDP composition today, real estate alone accounts for about 10%. And bear in mind that that doesn't include construction and infrastructure, which is captured under investments. If you look at the other point, which is what Nigeria needs, bearing in mind the ambition of the government to build or to get to a $1 trillion GDP number, the rails on which that ambition will be achieved is infrastructure. And currently we have 100 billion deficits that we have to spend every year for the next 10 years. So when you look at real estate and infrastructure combined, they represent the most important platform for job creation and youth empowerment in the country. But the extent to which we monetize that or extract the value that we require will be a function of a number of things: policies, financing, and then skills development. In terms of the specific opportunities, if you look across the delivery chain, right from design, you have architects, you have builders, you have the Herculean task of addressing 20 million housing deficit in the country today. If we were to embark on that, it amounts to setting a stage whereby Nigeria becomes a construction site for the foreseeable future. So I think that it's one important area that we need to take seriously because it is capable of employing millions of Nigerians every year, repeatedly over an extended period of time. And the opportunities go from design to construction, delivery, facilities management, introduction of green energy, and many other things. So it's one area that I think, based on what we've seen in recent times, there's an active youth engagement and one that I think will remain very important if we really want to address the issue of unemployment in the country.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will come back to that. We'll unpack a bit on that. But let me hear from my brother, Obi. So again, same question. What are the specific, job opportunities in your sphere?
Okay, thank you. I mean, first of all, it's important, just as Deji was saying, in terms of context, the cultural and creative industries today in Nigeria employ around 5 million people. And depending on how you measure the contribution to GDP, when you aggregate it properly and you combine it with telco really being the distribution, because digital platforms without content are dead platforms. And the content on the digital platforms comes from our sector. So you're really looking at, one of the key things that has happened is that the minister led an extensive mapping of the sector in terms of job growth and opportunity. And we have seen that our targets and our KPIs was to grow 2 million jobs by 2030. The data is telling us that we can achieve 3 million, but again, it has to be resourced, right? Similar to what Deji said, when you look at the creative economy and you have to look at it, when you look at it, obviously you're looking at fashion, you're looking at media, you're looking at entertainment, you're looking at broadcast, you're looking at hair and beauty, you're looking at cuisine, you're looking at animation, literature, publishing. These are sectors which, how would I put it? They're hyper-connected. And if you go the full way, it's well over 50 sectors. And certainly with Nigeria, with its youth bulge, an average age of 18, and the ability to converge the digital economy with digital platforms with the talent that Nigerians have anyway, if we can upskill the Nigerians, we will see enormous growth in terms of jobs and enormous opportunities for the young Nigerians, both in terms of jobs and in terms of startups. And the one thing I'd like to add to that is that there is a full national IP policy about to come, which is going to affect startups and the creative economies extensively, because it's going to enable the bankers to utilize intellectual property as collateral, which has been one of the key things and levers that has enabled America, the UK, China, Brazil to drive their IP industries. And if you look at America, you might see that 50–60% of the US economy is IP industries. And Nigeria has the opportunity to be pretty much the same.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm going to come to Bank of Industry. Like you introduced yourself at the beginning, you are that primary bank, of course, government as a key investor, and your job is really to stimulate industry, right? Industrialization, production sector, linking them up with access to finance and all the other things that are related to finance. And you've listened to our other panelists speak about their sectors, the opportunity in the sector, the wider economy. And I also know that in your portfolio, there are certain, priority sectors I know. So can you speak to us about what is the bank doing to really bring together, financing for opportunities in these various sectors? What's the bank doing now? What's the bank planning to do that can really, we know that when this happens, will lead to job creation?
Thank you very much. So as I had mentioned earlier, we are a policy bank, and our job is to implement government's policy with respect to the various sectors of the economy, etc. Now, all the sectors that we've discussed here, all the opportunities that are been listed here, require one key ingredient: financing. They require financing, not just financing, any kind of financing, but financing that is what is called patient capital, that is medium to long-term financing at the right pricing. Current rates in the market are about 30-something%, etc. There is no industry that will survive and be viable when they are being charged that kind of rate. So the pricing of the financing has to be low cost and affordable for the industry to grow. Because all of these industries, all of these sectors, the youth generally are, in most cases, startups. As a startup, you need to have the right kind of financing to be able to scale and to grow. If you are charged too high interest and all of that, the business will fail. And so there'll be no job creation. So what the bank has done is to ensure that we gain access to that financing that is required, that is medium term, let's say about 5, 7, 8, 10 years, etc., and gain it at a cost that enables us to provide it to these businesses at single-digit rates, or slightly, if double-digit, maybe about 12, 13%, in an environment where interest rates are going for 33%, etc. How have we been able to do that? What we have done is, one, blended financing. We have established relationships with a number of multilateral institutions, the AFDB, the Afrexim Bank, etc., the World Bank. And what we've raised funding from there at different prices. But then when you aggregate the prices, you find that it becomes single digits and therefore affordable. We are not a profit-making institution. We are about impact. How many jobs did you create? How many SMEs did you help to rise from small to medium to large enterprise? How many people in the supply chain did you support, etc.? That is how we are measured. And so in that sense, we're not looking to make profit. So we try to keep the cost of our funding low so that we can pass on that advantage to the needing enterprises, the youths, etc., women-owned enterprises and all of that. The other thing, apart from blended financing, is that we've also developed an innovative way of de-risking the loans that we are able to take. By that, I mean, we raise money internationally using credit enhancements from the federal government. By that, I mean guarantees. However, given the challenges that most African countries face, the rating of BOI is the same credit rating as the federal government. Now, with the rating of the federal government, if you go to the international market, you're looking at raising money in the region of about 10, 11, 12%, etc. That is how it will cost. Now, we cannot take that kind of money and successfully deploy it in a way that we at single digits, etc. We'll be making losses, right? So what we have done, an innovative way of doing this, is that we have now partnered with multilateral agencies like AFC, for instance, to provide a guarantee to us. AFC has an investment grade rating. And therefore, because they are guaranteeing BOI, when we approach the international market, what they do is they're looking at AFC risk, not Nigeria rating risk. And so to that extent, we're able to raise money at sometimes 5%, sometimes even lower. That then gives us the opportunity to deploy that funding at affordable rate, single digits, etc.
Okay.
So those are some of the, and then we now come back and we develop programs to ensure that we deploy this money successfully to the creative sector, to the agricultural sector, to women-owned enterprises, etc., at affordable rates. There are other ways that we also are able to further de-risk these loans so that they make it affordable.
Okay.
I will discuss more about that as we go.
Thank you very much. And you hit on the note that I was actually going to tee off on. And that's really because, you know, the jobs are created when people take risk. You know, private sector take risks to go into a business. The business is in one of these sectors that we're discussing. And if they don't then have the appropriate financing, the partnerships to really, you know, boost their ideas or their thoughts, then really there can be no business and there can be no jobs. And so you started describing some of them, and I was just going to go back again to our panelists, particularly again, let me tee off again with the creative sector. And just as you said, it's a lot, right? There's a film industry, there's a fashion industry, there's interior designers, interior architecture, and what have you. My point then is, and the question would be, what are we doing to galvanize, you know, the private sector for these opportunities? Knowing fully well that you have partners like the Bank of Industry and all the others that is mentioned who have financing for certain programs or certain initiatives. So what are we really doing to galvanize those initiatives? Because, for example, any small business or startup here may not be able to access Bank of Industry, right? But through your agencies, they know your sector, they know what it is, and you then can direct them to some program, finance, and things. So I want us to speak a little more about that, and I'll come back again to BOI. Yeah,
you want me to take it?
Go first, and then Aisha, and then I'll come back to Mr. Ali. Yeah.
Well, you know, first of all, I mean, we work closely with the Bank of Industry. That's one thing, and we've been working with them developing key focuses, film, fashion, and music being the sort of three lead segments. And I believe early next year, you're likely to see some major initiatives and interventions from the Bank of Industry in those three spaces. At the same time, coming from the minister's office and also with the agencies, because all of us at the agency level basically had alignment in terms of our roadmaps to work with the ministerial roadmap. And the minister has been very aggressive and gone out there and created a number of SPVs in partnership with MOFI, the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, specifically capacity building, clapnigeria.ng for the fellows who are here. If you go there, there's a lot of resources in terms of capacity building, how you can get involved in the sector. But then in terms of financing that you're talking about, the most important intervention is the CEDF, the Creative Economy Development Fund, which again is partnered with MOFI, but is backed in the first instance by Afrexim Bank to the tune of $200 million. So we've had two calls, two RFPs have gone out. The first one went out from about April to the end of June, and that was around people who are looking to raise, you know, slightly more significant sums from $1 million up. I believe there were over 3,000 applicants for about $300 million. So it's obviously for more than is actually in-house at the moment. But at the second side, which is more for blended finance, grants, and debt contributions up to about $100,000, we've seen over 50,000 applicants. And that is just literally closing now. I'm hearing rumors that from the minister this week that she might open it up a secondary window because there is a lot of interest. But obviously, part of the work that she's doing is to go out there and look for more resources to back the CDF and make it bigger. The full target for the CEDF is $2 billion. And it's important that I should say that these funds are not for us in government. This is for the ecosystem. It's for the startups. It's for the young people. And it's important that they stay engaged because, of course, there's a healthy level of skepticism about whether you can access funds, what you can do. And I think that's why there's been a lot of work done at the interministerial level on the IP policy. So there you have justice, trade and investment, digital economy, finance, and our ministry coming up with this thing so that, because at the end of the day, once Nigeria can begin to fund ideas, right? Funding ideas, it is ideas that unlock the future. We're in the age of innovation and attention, and obviously creativity and storytelling, which is innate to us, but you actually need to back it with capital. Because our focus, I think, at the regulatory side or the official side, is we have enormous influence, right? Nigerians are literally loading 5,000 to 10,000 pieces of content every single day on digital platforms. So we have attention, we have influence, but the objective is to move that to capital, to move that to business, to enterprise. And once you do that, then you can begin to see exponential growth. So the value chain is there. And I think the mapping is showing us, we've done detailed mapping on 10 of the sectors, and there's more to come. But for sure, this is a sector that holds the future of Nigeria in its palms because it appeals to the younger people. The barriers to entry are lower. And once you have the talents, and by the way, it's not just in front of the camera. I think it's behind the camera as well, because a lot of people just see the stars, but for every star, there's 1,000 people behind, making the star to look easy, so to speak.
Great, thank you. And I want to just be able to emphasize a few things, especially because of our younger audience. I mean, you just mentioned clap, you mentioned film, fashion, music, the very specific industries, because, and like you also rightly said, behind one star, there's a whole lot at the back end, and there's a whole lot of work and workers and team members that work at the back end. And so you find that two things happen here. One, the fellows themselves begin to get an ideation of where they can really explore what opportunities beyond the regular, beyond the banks and on all the regular. Some enterprise SMEs here can understand that they can actually engage also the fellows because they are all part of the back end of the big work. So really what we're trying to do here is really tease out those opportunities. And I'm going to go to Mr. Ali again because of you mentioned earlier the whole gamut of opportunity that the real estate infrastructure sector, and I know there's also a financing program with MOFI and what have you. Now, yes, you will speak to us a bit about that. And I'm also mindful that we're not speaking above those in the room, but whilst we do that, just also to tease out really how do these become opportunities that young Nigerians can plug in and can, where they can get the work, where they can get the experience, where they can get the hustle to plug into. Yes, sir.
Okay, combining real estate and infrastructure is a bit to comment on. So I can come back to infrastructure later, but let me speak to real estate. The reason I mentioned at the beginning that real estate accounts for 10%, which is a third largest component of our GDP, is to signal the importance of that sector. But it's also to indicate that it's a measure of what is possible. If we do the right things, that easily between real estate and infrastructure could move to about 30%. So that's a significant sector that you're talking about. There's hardly anyone that you come across that hasn't got a brother, sister, uncle, father, or mother in real estate doing one thing or the other. And I think the challenge always is, how do you scale opportunities so that there is wealth creation? Now, we often think about things in terms of funding. And I think that's what you find most developers saying. But what we're finding is that if we have to scale that sector, and there's a possibility of quadrupling what we're doing in real estate today, then you need to start off with a cohesive policy. Because if there's a cohesive policy, then it filters down all the way and it creates opportunities for everybody. A young graduate, if you're an architect, you can design. You can be part of a construction management team. You can project manage. You can be in sales. You can be in facilities management. And these are significant opportunities in an industry today that is highly fragmented. So to really address the opportunity and to create those kind of job opportunities for our young people, I'll just use an example. At the national level, you have the Federal Ministry of Housing building homes, Federal Mortgage Bank building homes. You have the NHF intervention. You have the Federal Housing Authority building homes. You have the Family Homes Fund building homes. We now have a Murphy Real Estate Investment Fund financing. So there is no cohesiveness amongst them. And that's very important. And the reason I'm saying that funding has proven not to be the big issue in real estate today is that for the first time in, I would say in almost 40 years, a Nigerian can borrow at single digit for up to 20 years to finance a home. That's possible. And it's available to every Nigerian. But what we're finding is that because of a lack of coordination between national and state governments, those opportunities are being eroded. I'll give you an example. There's a state, for instance, that just came out and said, well, for every home that you build in the affordable space, once you deliver, there's a 1 million naira levy. So you have the federal government trying to empower people to buy homes. You have the state government seeing it as a revenue. So it's those sort of contradictions. And I think it is important because if you don't talk about it at that higher level, you don't create those opportunities at a scale that we would like to see. I would like to cite the example of Singapore and all that, but this is what they did. There's a coordinated approach to this, but I think the federal government has started well, but we need to harmonize the different things. So I say that real estate, unlike many other sectors, is an opportunity. It doesn't matter what your discipline is. You can pick any segment along the value chain. But as opportunities become bigger, I think there becomes enough for everybody to feel. And this is a national program that the government is running. So
thank you very much. And incidentally, what you said, that's what is being discussed in the parallel session there, really about this whole coordination, cohesiveness. It's what we've seen across conversations when you're trying to get people in the room to coordinate anything around job creation, that whole cohesiveness becomes critical, but that's what's also been discussed in the next panel. So I'm going to move to Madam Aisha for a minute. And again, I want us to, you mentioned something. The biggest challenge we have is the ability or inability to scale opportunities. So yes, there's this opportunity there that we have a lot of content creators, like Obi said, and what have you, but how are we able to really scale, drive these opportunities at scale? So what are you doing, or what do you think either you're doing at CBAC or we should be doing? And it's good to know that your sector is also multi-sector, right? What are those ideas, thoughts that we can you can provide? Yeah.
Well, I would say we have to start with connecting the dots. Because I created my own jobs for myself as a photographer, right? And I think it was being able to live through that life for almost 10 years that I realized the day I don't go out to work, there's some people that will not eat, right? Because you need a lighting guy, you need people in the studio, so just because you decided to have talent, there was this quote that I loved back then that said, ideas are capital, the rest is just money. And I think that's the one thing Nigeria has. We are full of beautiful, vibrant young people that have ideas. Where we have an issue is the level of commitment. If I, as a photographer, wants to set up a studio today, right? I must have land to collect collateral. There are a lot of changes that are happening now, obviously, but I know what people who already have the potential are going through in trying to access, whether it's funding, financing, visibility. There's a lot. You have an idea, you want to market it, you still need funding. So in as much as we believe funding is not the issue, we also need to still see it as a huge issue, because that's the only way you can actually scale up. You need money to make money. So what I would say to the fellows, because I believe we're speaking directly to them, is the government itself, we may not be perfect in the way we're doing things, but we also need those who, like the great people here, who have those ideas. So for example, I'm a creative, right? And I run a government agency. I had to do an MBA to be able to understand financing. I was lucky to be able to advise the Minister of Finance as a creative to learn about these financing things. And I was very happy to also contribute to the initial thought process of the Nigerian Jubilee Fellows Program. Even Bank of Industry, I remember we were back and forth with them to ensure that they had a desk where people who had ideas could come to scale up their business plans. I know the Nexim Bank also had something like that. And so for us, it's like, how do we get more of that? So we're building awareness in a way that the other sectors can understand the value that we bring to the table. And just like my DG had said about the efforts of the ministry, even within the Renewed Hope agenda, we're looking at how do we align the policies that will cut across the various ministries, the various agencies, right? And there are a lot of times that there are thought processes that it takes the creatives to bring to the table. So for us, we know that we have creatives. That is why the minister ensured there was a data mapping. So now you have the numbers, you have ideas of where they are. It's now where to place them. So I would say personally to the fellows, there's a lot of personal work that also needs to be done. You cannot wait for the opportunities to come to you. I asked one day in a room of 1,000 young people, how many people were following government pages, for example, where these opportunities are being announced, and I had only 2 people in that room, right? So that's one. We have to do more in building the communication. I know the National Orientation Agency today is working with young people to create the kind of content that will attract their mindset towards seeing these opportunities. Because now we realize all it takes is 8 seconds for the young people to lose interest. And these are the same people we're trying to create the jobs for. But if they're not focused to learn about where these jobs are, then you're not going to get the kind of support that you need. You heard what the Sterling Bank MD said earlier. They plan to take 1,000 people. They were only able to take 300. And out of that 300, only 17 were hired. What does that say? We have the people. We just need the structure in place. So for me, I would say this charge to whether it's private sector, we can see they're doing a lot when it comes to buying art for collateral. Art is now seen as collateral, so they will invest in that because it adds value to them. We need the private sector to take more risks in seeing these young people, not just as an individual. If today a Burna Boy is filling out stadiums, just because he's using that stadium will stay afloat. What are we doing cutting across our own sectors within the spaces that we're in? I think one of the things my DG didn't mention earlier is the different hubs that we're going to have across states and hopefully local governments, if possible, down to the wards, if we're able to break it down. And when we're building these things, we want that support. I, for one, have the program called Paid, and we deliberately called it Paid because our ad will be, do you want to get paid within the creative and cultural sector? So imagine that as a video or an animation or whatever, it will attract the minds. But we need the other sectors to also believe in us and believe that this can happen. And we need the young people to please, fellows, do not hesitate to put out your ideas, even if it is not going to add value to you. If you see a space where you may think of, it can even be on Twitter, you'll be shocked at who will pick it up as an idea. Express yourself as much as you can. Walk into spaces with audacity. If they don't have something, tell them they should. And then for those of us who have the opportunities, we are looking for more, right? So what did Obi say earlier? The CEDF 2.0, they may open it back up again. So those applications are there for you guys to access. We also have ours coming out soon, that for those who have the design concepts and thoughts in mind, by January, the training starts. And that training is to upscale you to think beyond just your design, but to think about how you can build an ecosystem and create jobs for your friends, your colleagues, your family members, to be able to join you in building something bigger and better. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we would, I'm looking at our time. We're racing against time, but we would have room for 2 questions. I don't know if my ushers, not now, coming soon, but if the ushers around the room, we just have room for about 2 questions. But before then, I think what is clear is that we also need to have a type of a talent pool, right? Talent pool, opportunities pool, and that way as well also know what financing products or what financing schemes, back up those talents,
Yes.
those kind of matching. And I think that's where the hubs, like you rightly mentioned, those kind of hubs are important for your sector, but in every other sector, in every other ecosystem, those opportunities are there. I would come to the BOI for maybe just 1 minute to speak to what everyone has spoken about in terms of, a type of talent pool, opportunities for jobs, scaling up, and what would you want to contribute to that? Or maybe I say it will be your own parting comment. So let me reserve that for a second. Let's see. Do we have the 2 questions now? Okay, so who is giving them the mic? Who is on the floor? So 1 here and 1 there. So let's just take your questions and then we'll allow all our speakers again for their parting comments. And yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ibrahim Umar. I'm part of the host organization of Nigerian Jubilee Fellowship 1.0. My own question goes to the 2 DGs from the creative industry. The Creative Economic Development Fund is being opened for the first phase and the second phase. And the second phase, we are closed. I think it was extended for 1 month again and it's closed. We try to meet up.
So what's the question? We don't have time. Question.
Yeah, I'm going to the question, sir.
Yes, let's go to the question. Yeah.
The question here is that
no problem.
It's a very good initiative, but in the criteria of that CDM, I didn't think it's a friendly platform for non-profit organizations.
Okay, so this is a comment now. Question, what is the question?
I said, my question is, how can they improve that CDF, Creative Economic Development Fund space in terms of it will be friendly to non-governmental organization, not business-owned organization? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, there's one other. Thank you so much. Yeah, there's one other. Okay, great. Yes. No lady. I thought there was a lady that raised her hand. It was okay. Okay, you have the mic now. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Ask your question. 30 seconds. Then the lady. Yeah.
Okay. My name is John Paul Obioku. My question is very simple. in a digital space.
To who? Or to everybody? Or to anybody?
To everybody.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, my question is, how can you, in a digital space, assess a loan?
Assess what? A loan?
Yes,
Okay.
to finance a project.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. That will be to BOI. Okay, the lady, let's have the lady. Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Oklobia Enejoy. So if I heard correctly, I heard so many initiatives from the speakers that are in place for youth and fellows. Okay, over time, right, most of these initiatives, they come up and then they are linked for us to apply. And youth like me, we have the mentality of, okay, it's a government fund or whatever it is. If I apply for this initiative, there's that fear that I may not get the opportunity. So my question is, how will you convince us to apply? And then at the end of the day, the opportunity will be given to us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Good. So those are the questions, opportunities. That's the targeted one and the one on the loan. Okay, so let me allow the creative sector go first again.
In terms of the non-profit side, there's an entire opportunity for non-profit, for NGOs, and there are grants available within the CEDF. What is important, however, is you have to show your credentials. A lot of people just stand up in the morning and say, I'm an NGO, but they have no way to establish that they are actually an NGO. So you have to show your credentials, show what you've been doing. And the best advice I can give you, if you're having difficulty, find a financial advisor to help you submit your plan, okay? Nobody expects every entrepreneur or every applicant to 100% understand everything at the time. So find somebody in your circle, a lawyer, an accountant, somebody who can advise you. And if you have any issues, also there are help buttons on the CEDF that you can even talk to me after the session.
Great, thank you. Let me allow BOI to answer that question about I guess he's in the digital economy, the digital content and whatever. So how can they access loan and any other parting words you have for us? Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So when I spoke earlier, I mentioned about how we raise the money. How do we deploy it in a way that is sustainable, and how do we de-risk it? Because for a young business person who is just starting out, they don't have collateral to put. The women entrepreneurs is even worse, right? So what do we do to ensure that that works? First of all, we want to be sure that you are skilled enough to run the business. You have an idea, etc. But you need to put it in a bankable form, in language that bankers understand. And so that way you're able to access the funding. How does that happen? We have a group of consultants, over 400 of them, business development consultants all over the country. We introduce you to them. They will handhold you, look at your business idea, look at the various opportunities in the market, put that into a feasibility study and a business plan and all that, including governance, and build all of it around that. And once that is done, they bring the credit request to BOI, we review it, we approve it, and we disburse the funds. And you will say, okay, how do I get money to hire a consultant? You don't have to pay the consultant. BOI pays them. We pay them based on milestones. You finish the feasibility study, you get paid. You put in the application, they get paid, etc., and all of that. So we fund that ourselves. That's one aspect. Then in deploying the loan, there's collateral that we lend against cash flow. But in the event that the business fails, collateral is the backstop, right? Now, that's also always a challenge with that. Where do you find collateral? What we have done is to try to see if we can get partner with organizations that will de-risk that by providing guarantees, first loss guarantee, etc. We've partnered with the Africa Guarantee Fund, it's a subsidiary of the AFDB, to raise about $50 million in terms of guarantees that will provide up to 75% guarantee of the loan to women-owned enterprises or people who are engaged in environmental sector. The second, and up to 50% for just normal MSMEs. So that is one of the things that is also available for accessing the loans. The second aspect of it is capacity building, because it's not just the money. You must be able to manage the business successfully. Being able to manage the business successfully. So one of the things we do is also to train and skill and build the people. For instance, before you even take the loan, there's a training that you have to undergo in order to ensure that you have your idea is viable and is sufficiently de-risked. So those are some of the things that we put in place to ensure that you're able to access the loan and also able to continue to grow.
Thank you very much. I want to ask a simple question for the benefit of everyone here. And I like the fact that you said, well, whilst other financing instruments would loan against collateral, you at least consider against cash flow and things like that, and all the whole de-risking approach. Is there a desk, you know, like you mentioned, and just a place where people can just come and say, I have this idea, you know, because Nigerians are very entrepreneurial. A lot of these young people too are very entrepreneurial. They have, you know, does BOI have a desk, like an idea desk, like the DG mentioned, in all their branches across Nigeria, that wherever they are posted, they can just walk up to a BOI desk and say, okay, I have this idea. Do you understand? I don't know.
Yeah, we have, first of all, we have all our branches are there, but also online too. On BOI website, there are so many programs that are available for youth, women-owned enterprises, etc., that you can access.
Explore. Okay.
Yeah, you can explore. It's all there.
Okay.
You know?
So the man, digital content, he answered your question, right? So I think you can start from online as well. And I would also, those are part of the things from a coordination perspective that I also want us as institutions to pursue, right? Just be able to have an ideation desk, you know, whether it's some basic business plan people can submit, review, get get some kind of feedbacks, you know, there can be a coaching session based on those feedbacks. We really just need to be able to reach the people, just as the people can also reach us. I think that's important.
I just want to add just a note on two programs that would be very relevant here. For instance, for NYC, we have a program, a fund that is set aside to provide financing for for NYC young people who have a good business idea, etc., and are willing to undergo training. That we also handle by ourselves.
Okay.
And you can access that. It's also available on the website. The other one, which is really big for the creative sector, the digital sector, etc., is the IDICE program, the Investment in Digital and Creative Enterprise Program. That is a partnership between the federal government of Nigeria, the AFDB, the French Development Agency, and the ISDB.
Okay.
It will be about $618 million that is available to actually support this. And part of the program is to train about 175,000 youths and women, etc., in being able to run those businesses and come up with that. And it is to create up to 6 million jobs. That is the objective.
Okay, great. I'm mindful
but there's
that
a training that comes with all of that.
Okay, I'm mindful that
it's all available on the website. So please.
Thank you.
Feel free.
So I'm mindful our timer has stopped, but we need to wrap up. So, Mr. Lee, Mike, the question I have for you as your closing thought is,
There's still one question, the lady.
yes, I was going to have you answer that. That's the one she talked about. How do you ensure that you apply these things, you get it and all? I was going to have you answer that. But I want to get Mr. Ali's closing thought on this question. How can we literally strengthen the local value chains? And I ask you that specifically because in the real estate sector, and as you reeled it out, whether it's the builders and what have you, from the design table to the builders, there's a whole lot of value chain there. And we all know the challenges, but how can we literally strengthen these local value chains for these opportunities in the sector? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's possible that because of the way I talked about the real estate opportunity of the sector, that people don't feel connected in terms of opportunities. But remember also, and speaking to the young folks right now, that a creative mind can create opportunities for itself or for ourselves within the real estate sector. I mean, these days we find lots of young people who develop applications that we never felt were necessary for our business in terms of how we market, in terms of how we manage facility, do a facility management. So those are big opportunities that are unfolding. Remember that the developers of Airbnb don't do real estate. They're just apps developers. And they've created an opportunity far bigger than real estate itself. So I think that trying to understand the value chain and depending on your profession, trying to see where you can intervene, not necessarily by being a builder or an architect, but finding ways to improve the value chain in itself and create unique opportunities that can become very valuable indeed. And we're working with a lot of young people these days who are bringing different apps to intervene and to intersect in what we're doing. So I'll encourage you to take a look at those areas as well.
Thank you so much. Madam Aisha, let me have your answer a question and then your closing thoughts. Yeah.
Okay, so I will say we already, like I said earlier, we have a trust deficit where people don't believe that whatever government does or government affiliated things, this is something that has built up over the years. But the one thing I'll say to the young lady is, if you don't ask, it's already no, right? Right? So if you do not apply, it's already no. So why are you afraid to apply? There's no fear in that. I can assure you in my lifetime, I've probably put out 2,000 applications and maybe got all in all, maybe like 20. But guess what? With each application, it forces you to think. The young man there said it is not, what did you say? It's not friendly to NGOs, right? But when you're going through that process, you're learning. That's one. You're going to have to think about your business if it doesn't match that application. Let's say, for example, now I know a lot of people, because of the CEDF applications, they now are actually documenting their finances. Applications help you, even if you don't make it, right? So if you drop that process of, I don't know anybody, or what if I don't get it, you will never make it, trust me. You just need to be able to go out there, have your audacity and just believe that this will happen, but think about what you are learning through the process. I learned a lot from filling out application forms. And I think that helped me later on become more successful years down the line. Because the early stages, I was really just thinking of the failure instead of thinking of what I could do better to ensure I make it next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so because the closing plenary is just about to regroup here, let me say that just like she said, please apply. We've said it here, information asymmetry, we need to close that up. The government need to reach the people also need to believe in us, because we know that every sector holds a key to the Nigerian economy. And so all of this that we've done is to really explore the opportunities in the sector so that each and every one of us can be a part to it. So let me use this opportunity again to thank our eminent speakers, from Mr. Obi Asika to Mr. Deji Ali to my dear sister Aisha Haugi. Mr. Leonard, representing the CEO of the Bank of Industry, Shupolusi. Thank you very much. We would have a group photo here. I think I can see the head of European Union, Massimo De Luca, to join the group photo. I think I see the Deputy RR for UNDP. Please join us. I think, and Stella Kotete as well. You can join us for the group photo. Thank you.
Please, let's appreciate this panel. Very beautiful. Thank you very much. And then we can begin to let the other panel start to round up to join us here for the closing panel. For the closing plenary, the other breakout session over there should begin to round up now to join us here.
Okay, thank you very much, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's been an awesome time since the beginning of the program. As we know, it's a two-in-one program, though connected. The Vice President officially flagged off the NJFP 2.0. And right after that, we've had the first panel, which was really about the fellowship, about amplifying fellowship as a pathway to job creation in Nigeria. And then we have moved into the breakout session where we've had two panels. One panel on the exploring the opportunities in the various sectors for job creation, and the other panel that spoke about the economic policy and driving coordination, in that space. We are now convening to the closing plenary. So I would want everyone outside to please come in, because I can see a couple of our special guests. I can see my Egbon, Bolaji Balogun, and a few others in the room already. So please, let's all just come in so that we can convene the closing plenary now. And what is important is this. The Jubilee Fellows program is now officially on. I'm sure there will be some announcements about the application process for the 2.0 before we close. This panel will conclude the 3 panels that we've convened to drive a high policy national dialogue for job creation. The outcomes of these panels would be action points for the federal government of Nigeria working in that space of better coordination for job creation in Nigeria, especially for our young people. So we really want to thank every one of you who has been a part of this from the beginning, whether at the official flag off of the NJFP itself, or throughout the panel sessions that has taken place since morning, and now we're concluding with panel 4, which is the panel on sustainable financing and investments for job creation. I'm going to hand over the podium back again to my big brother, Ebere, so to do that.
Thank you. Let us. We have close to about 10 minutes for the Honorable Minister to join us here. And somebody whispered to me that within that 10 minutes, people can quickly go there, grab something, and come back. You agree?
Yes.
Okay, please. We have small chops and tea at the back. Let's do that in 10 minutes and come back here. Let's do that in 10 minutes. Well, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please come in now. We are about to kick off our final plenary. We're about to start our final plenary. Please come back. Ushers, please move everybody back in. Please come in, come in, come in. Please come in. It will also be please come in, please come in. Ushers, assist. Let's bring everybody on. Time is of the essence. Let everybody come back here now. Our panelists and moderators are here. Our facilitators are here. We are waiting for all of you to come back here so that we can start. Please come in. Please come in. Please come in. Please come in. Thank you very much. I can see people coming in now. Fellows, I'm also expecting you to be back on your seats. Thank you. Please come in and take your seats. We welcome all of you. I think we can start. Let me welcome all of you to the final plenary. The final plenary is taking a look, or if you like, you call it a closing plenary. We're taking a look at sustainable financing and investment job creation. Before I go into that, let me also tell the fellows, I understand the website for registration will be open today by 5 p.m. So for all of you that want to be part of it, the website will be open from 5 p.m. And so welcome to the closing plenary, sustainable financing and investment for job creation. Let me quickly welcome our moderator, the CEO, the healthcare investor, founder, Health Cap Africa, Dr. Ola Brown. These are our moderators.
We need the whole balance. So the same way I did then.
Okay, we seem to, this side is very heavy. Can we spread out a bit to this side? Can we spread out a bit, please? Thank you. Yes. Moderator? Dr. Ola Brown? Yes. Where the tab is? Let me welcome our panelists that are here. CEO Chapel Hill Denham, Mr. Bolaji Balogun is here with us. The Chief Executive Officer and Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Investment Promotion Council, Ms. Aisha Rimi, is also here. Executive Director, Nigeria Export-Import Bank, Honorable Stella Okotete. Are you from NIPC? Okay. Dr. Vanessa Falamoyo, Country Director, International Labour Organization, ILO. That's our panel for now. In case other people join us, we'll bring them on board. But right now, Dr. Ola Brown, over to you.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Ola Brown, and I'm the general partner of Health Cap Africa. We invest in health tech and fintech across the continent, and it's great to be here. And I'd just like to start by thanking the organizers for giving me the privilege of moderating this panel. I'll start by setting the scene. Most of these facts you'll know quite well, but it's always good to reflect on them as we start this really important conversation. There are almost 200 countries in the world, and nearly half of those countries have achieved a GDP per capita of over $9,000. which means the people in those countries are relatively okayly kind of comfortable. So just to explain the term GDP per capita, because I know that there's a few new graduates in the room, is when you divide all the money in the country by the number of people. So if you divide all the money in Qatar by the number of people, you get about $120,000. If you divide all the money in America by the number of people, you'd get about $60,000 each for each citizen. If you divide all the money in the UK by the number of people, you get about $40,000 for each person. If you divide all the money in Nigeria by the number of people, you get over $1,000, so about $1 million, about 100K per month. So even without any leakages in the system, the GDP per capita in Nigeria is still quite poor. So what I started by saying is nearly half of the world's countries have achieved over 9,000 per person. So they're relatively okayly comfortable. And they've done that in very similar ways. How countries develop is small companies become big companies. And those big companies do four major things. Number one, they become a source of business for the small companies. So the small companies service the big companies. Number two, they list on stock exchanges and give the public a chance to create, to contribute to or participate in wealth creation. Number three, they pay taxes, which allow governments to provide public goods and protect the vulnerable. And the fourth, and the subject of this panel, is they also employ people. And since biblical times, this model hasn't really changed. Rome became the most powerful country 3,000 years ago because they had the people with the skills and education. So the blueprint for prosperity is not really new. It's over 3,000 years old. No country has been able to achieve prosperity without productivity. The real question is, for my panel to start with, why hasn't Nigeria achieved it yet? And I'd like every panelist to please answer. Yes, that move from poverty to prosperity, that journey from small companies to big companies that employ people and lift people out of poverty.
So I would say we're a work in progress. And if you do a comparison with the numbers of the countries you've made mention of, we're just about 65 years old. And with a growing population of over 250 million people, you don't expect us to share the same GDP line with some of these other countries. But what I think we need to do, because I'm not part of the school who laments on our past or our errors. I always like looking into the future and what we need to do in terms of providing solution. One of the solutions is what the UNDP is currently doing with the federal government. Nigeria has to grow from being relatively an import-dependent nation to becoming an export industrial nation. What do I mean by that? We need to scale up industries that would create, the bubbles that would create employment for our people, sustainable employment for our people, and actually drive up wealth creation as well. So with that, we'll definitely be dealing with poverty. And beyond that, I think education is also very important. And that's what the training, the fellowship is all about too, because when I looked at the model, it has to do with capacity building as well as placements for jobs and all of that. So if we put these two things together and ensure that it trickles down to the words in each of our states or our local governments, we'll definitely get better returns as a nation.
Thank you. Vanessa, the same question to you.
Thank you so much. Just before I start, I want to confirm that the picture behind me and me is the same person. This is the 2.0 version, the version that have tasted Nigeria jollof rice.
Fantastic.
So thank you so much for the question. And as we reflect also on progress that we have made with various interventions also acknowledging the contribution of the Jubilee Fellow in really supporting the job employment architecture in Nigeria, we also have to ask ourselves, some few critical questions, like how do we sustain some of these interventions going forward? And how do we ensure that we forge ahead with moving from poverty, as you said, to prosperity? I think from where I stand, and then I say so because my organization works in the space of employment and job creation. And while ours is more from the policy aspect of it, but what I see in the implementation as far as a gap is how we have a very robust, modern labor market information system that really guides and informs all decisions from government as well as from the private sector in terms of where to invest as far as employment is concerned, to understand where the jobs are coming from and where the jobs are going, so that as we make decisions in terms of the direction, the trends that will be coming out of that system are allowing us to identify where to invest. So in addition to coherent policy, and I've heard this come around from the various conversations, you also need strong institutions. And the strength of the institutions lies in their ability, as many as they are, to coordinate and enhance synergy, so that the efforts that we are coming with from the different sides are coordinated for enhanced impact. I always hear a lot of people, my colleagues, saying Nigeria is too big to fail. Nigeria is very important to fail, but also Nigeria has got quite a lot that it can demonstrate as far as impact is concerned. And the failures can be addressed if we can really change the modalities of how we do things a little bit and be structured in our interventions. Without this labor market information system as well, we are not able to comprehensively and adequately narrate what we are doing from a holistic perspective. We can tell stories about what each is doing, what the states are doing, but do we have a collective source of information, of data that is able to narrate in a comprehensive manner what Nigeria in its entirety is doing? And I think that's something that we are lacking. We are lacking a system that really will assist us in data collection, a system that will assist us in having strategic conversations with the private sector to say, this is where the jobs are coming. We know we are in a digital economy, we are in a green economy, but do we have a system that really, analyzes that information and identify different trends? I know that with the Ministry of Labor, for example, and employment, there are employment centers that are aimed at supporting job employment, youth employment, but I think we can really structure them in a better way through a labor market information system. And I'm very aware that there are steps in getting that, but it's taking quite a long time. And this, in the absence of that system, we are going to tell a very disjointed story as far as our efforts and interventions. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Firstly, thank you very much, UNDP, the Office of the VP, as well as the EU, for inviting us to contribute to this very, very important conversation. If any one of us is a leader in this country, the most significant responsibility we have is to create jobs. We live in a country with one of the youngest populations in the world, and the biggest issue that is before us is jobs and opportunities for these people. If we go through our history of job creation in this market, as well as across the world, there are a number of principles that are pretty clear, and this sort of speak to your question about prosperity. The first of those is that jobs are created predominantly by the private sector. So the partnership, the engagement with private sector in this process is non-negotiable. The second element is to recognize that the bulk of training of young people in the history of this country has been done not by academic institutions, but by business and businesses. So if you look across Nigeria today, you will hardly find a significant person in Nigeria who at some point in their career didn't pass through a professional services firm or pass through a bank or pass through a multinational or pass through certain parts of the public sector in Nigeria. And this is fundamentally where we have trained people. So engaging private sector with a program like the Jubilee Fellows program is non-negotiable. The other key principle is that in this country, too many things are happening in various silos. And there are lots of people doing wonderful things around entrepreneurship, around job creation, around providing opportunities for young people. But very, very few of us are collaborating. And this requires very significant collaboration because it's all about the future. And the only way that you build prosperity in any country is by building businesses that scale. Nigeria is a country of predominantly SMEs. Every single Nigerian has a company or two in their back pockets. And while SMEs are fantastic, it's when SMEs scale and become really, really large businesses that they create very significant opportunities in their value chain for young people and for people in the employment sector. So when you ask that question about how do we narrow the gap between where we are and prosperity, it's about how do we transition our country, our community of shopkeepers into a country of bigger businesses. And it's those bigger businesses in turn that will drive prosperity.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the floor. My name is Abayomi Salami. I'm the Director of Policy Advocacy in the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission. I'm representing Ms. Aisha Rimi, the Executive Secretary, CEO of NIPC. So let me start by saying the country as a Nigeria just started in terms of deliberate attempt to even engage in prosperity in terms of creating jobs, sustainable development and growth. And as a result of which, when you look at how NIPC got into evolving, by the act that established the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, which enable even the foreigners to own their investment, created a platform for private sectors to thrive, as stated earlier by Mr. Bola Balogun. Because government is not in the business of doing the business. Government is in the business of creating a enabling environment. And by creating such environment, and that is the only area, that is the bedrock of creating opportunity for jobs and sustainable development. As a result of which, Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, let me start by saying that deliberately we started thinking along this line by even deliberately attracting and facilitating investment that are responsible, that are inclusive, that are beneficial, and that are sustainable. And I want to state here that we have been involved in so many efforts at even upscaling various sectors to create jobs. If you look at how the privatization of the telecommunication sectors has already unlocked over $75 billion, thereby creating opportunity along that line in creative industry, telecom, ICTs, you will appreciate that if not for the fact that the government decided and appreciate and realize that to create jobs, to create growth, to create develop, to ensure development, and even ensure sustainability, there is need to allow private sectors to begin to strive and create opportunities for all. Now, when you look at Nigeria as the largest Black country in the world, and even the one of the top 5 in the entire Africa, with the African Continental Free Trade Area, if Nigeria did not continue to upscale in terms of creating opportunity for the youth, there is going to be like Alhaji Dangote used to say, if you continue to patronize foreign goods, we continue to import poverty at the expense of creating jobs and making ways for others. So there is need for more of this kind of activities to strive. And thank God for the Office of the Vice President partnering with the UNDP and the EU to create the job opportunity. Thank you for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Salami. And that actually leads very nicely on to my next question, but I just have a few reflections first, particularly on what Mr. Bolaji Balogun said. Remember at the beginning, I said countries since 3,000 years ago have developed in the same way. Small companies become big companies, and those big companies, number one, become the customers of the small companies. Number two, pay tax so government can look after everybody. Number three, list on public stock exchanges so everybody can share in the money. And number four, probably most importantly, they employ tons of people. And I think that Mr. Bolaji Balogun's comment reminded me of something in The Economist earlier. It was an article a few months ago about Africa, when they said, the quote that I remember that was most powerful is, most entrepreneurship in Africa is unemployment in disguise. These companies are small, they remain small, they don't grow, they're unable to access financing, and they don't employ lots of people. They don't become the big companies that actually become the drivers of economic growth. Earlier, I also spoke about GDP. There are only 4 ways to grow an economy. Either you increase consumption, you increase government spending, you increase investment, or you increase exports. There are only 4 ways. We can't increase government spending because the government doesn't have enough money to spend. In fact, we borrow every year to fund the budget. So let's take that one out. We can't really increase consumption because people are basically spending all the money that they have, living paycheck to paycheck every single month. So we're consuming about all that we can consume. So the only 2 left are investments and exports. So my next question focuses on that. So I'd like to start with Nexim Bank, actually. And the question that I'd like to ask is, how can Nigeria's young people, the people in this room, really start to drive these 2 engines of growth, exports and investment?
So I'll basically just first of all explain, because I see we have a whole lot of Jubilee fellows here, what the Nigerian Export-Import Bank stands for. We're the export credit agency of the Nigerian government, solely empowered to fund exports. But we don't just fund you, we also provide financial advisory services to exporters. And for us, sustainable financing is not just about lending money. It's about creating an ecosystem that leads to empowerment, production, and job creation. Like the BOI earlier mentioned, we are not a profit-making agency, though we declare profit. We just declared 35 billion for 2024.
Congratulations.
But our major roles is more of a social role, whereby job creation, poverty reduction tops our agenda. And we've been able to do this across 4 critical sectors: manufacturing, agriculture, solid minerals, and services. When you look at the bulk of SMEs we have in this country, they all fall within these 4 categories that I have earlier mentioned. And so what we've been doing is that we've been providing concessionary financing to all of these players at a single-digit rate, as well as ensuring that we handhold them and develop products and services that would help create the ecosystem that we expect in line with our mandate. I'm saying this because it's very important to state here that Nigeria is not exporting enough. And so we need everybody to be on board. If we can increase our export as a nation, I can tell you that what you said earlier in terms of growing our GDP will be something that we can do within the next 48 or maximum 72 months. And that would actually take us, over 10 years ahead of our
fellow contemporaries. But if you do a comparison between Nigeria and other developing countries like Vietnam and the rest of them, you find out that they've been deliberate, not just government, but also the people and the private sector have been deliberate in growing exports. What we have right now as Nexim Bank is that we can fund your export, we can provide guarantee services, we can de-risk your export transactions. And we've done that perfectly well over the last 8 years that I've been at the bank. We've also developed products because we understand the peculiarity of our country. We've also tailored our products to meet each and every demand that we have met across our workspace. We have the Women and Youth Export Development Facility, which was designed to ensure that we create that bubbles, we create more participation of our young people and our women in the export value chain. And we also noticed when we resumed, the management resumed 8 years ago, that Nigeria was actually exporting its job because we're actually just exporting our raw materials. And that alone was creating more jobs for the end users of our products and keeping us underdeveloped, poor, and without job. And so we became very particular about value addition for our export. So we started supporting value-added export. And if you look at the trajectory since then, you find out that we've created a whole lot of value-added businesses that are not just exporting, especially in the agro-commodity space, that are not just exporting our raw materials, but adding value to our raw materials. By so doing, creating jobs across all sectors. I'll give you a good example. Before now, we only export cocoa beans. And it's, cocoa grows mostly in Africa. And Nigeria is one of the cocoa producing nations. But over time, we're very deliberate to see that we support cocoa processors to not just process it into powder, but also to liquor, as well as the end product, which is your chocolate bars. Today, we're doing very well in adding all of these values and getting more returns to our country. We've also, through this, created also businesses across the cashew cashew value chain, the chia value chain, as well as the sesame value chain. Today, if you're a lab scientist, you actually can work in any of these factories. It depends on, in fact, the facilities does not require so much, but whatever you study in school, you can actually add value in all of these spaces, from quality control to marketing to logistics and all of that. And if you look at the export ecosystem, it's not just about moving goods from Nigeria overseas. It's also about the entire value chain, from those who are sorting, who are picking, the logistics, the freight forwarders, the retailers who, in most cases, the aggregators who in most cases are the middlemen. All of these have been part and parcel of this whole space. And so when I was coming in, why I made mention of this is that I was happy to see one of our customers, on at the display end there, one of the biggest exporting companies in this country, who has over time, created that ecosystem whereby almost all Nigerian youths have an opportunity to be employed within their space because they are involved in the entire value chain of export. And so that's what export can actually bring to the fore. Export is what we need to do right now, considering the fact that if you export, you earn dollars. And when you look at the devaluation of our Naira currently, you earn more. So it's something that the fellowship should also look at, working with us. We're willing to work with them to see how we can create more networks and create more bubbles around getting more of the fellows to be players in the export space.
Thank you. And thank you for that amazing and comprehensive answer. I think my biggest reflection from what you just said is no country can be successful if it doesn't make things that the world wants. If you think about any country in the world, whether it's China, whether it's the UK, whether it's big America, whether it's Brazil, you think about their products, you think about what they produce that the world wants. Fortunately, Nigeria does have something that the world wants, and it currently gives us 90% of all our forex revenue, but we met it in the ground. And since we found it, we haven't been overly involved in the value chain of petrochemicals, etc. These are things that we can all develop, and some of the young people here, I hope, are thinking about those ideas already. Now, I did say that there's only 4 things that make a country grow economically in terms of GDP. I said government spending, that one is off. Consumption, that one is also off. We've treated the exports. The only other one is the I, which was investment. So I'm going to pass the same question to Mr. Abayomi Salami from NIPC. How can Nigeria's young people drive investments? How can Nigeria's young people, particularly the new graduates of the Jubilee Fellows Program, be more involved in attracting investments, whether that's working for companies or whether that's starting their own?
Thank you for the question. One of the things that government has been deliberate about doing is to continue to reform from time to time. You can see that in the recent past, I think since 1999, the economic reform has continued to graduate from one level to the other in order to create an enabling environment for the private sector businesses to strive, to ease doing businesses, to attract quality and tangible investment that can now be deliberately be channeled into creating jobs. Yes, we have already said one of the natural things that nature or God has already given to Nigeria is the youth, which is in excess of over 65%. How do we now transform this very agile, very intelligent set of people that Nigeria happens to be into a constructive thing that we add value? Yes, it is in a way of creating opportunities for them to strive. Yes, Nigerian government has continued to introduce various reforms. NIPC being the one that has been attracting, that is in charge of encouraging, promoting, and facilitating investment. We have been doing our best. Yes, as a result of which, one of the things that we do in terms of even supporting investment and investors to be able to even choose Nigeria, because foreign direct investment that we are talking about is limited. A lot of countries are competing for it. And again, the infrastructure deficit that is, we know in the environment that we are. There is need to the government decided to introduce an incentive known as a Pioneer Status Incentives to support the existing and the investors that are operating within the countries to be able to even do so many things, as stated by Ms. Okotete, because without them being able to find an environment where they can operate, there's no way they can add value. There's no way that the value chain thing that we are talking about can be. So what I am saying now, in essence, is that by creating opportunities for private sectors to strive and the kind of jubilee that the Office of the Vice President and UNDP is mentoring, it is one of the ways how government can be deliberate and the environment can be deliberate in making sure that we maximize the opportunities that we have, that the nature has bestowed upon Nigeria in terms of the youth and channeling them into constructive activities to add value. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My next question is for Mr. Bolaji Balogun. And one of the things that the Nigerian Jubilee Fellows Program has done so well is bring in the government, but also the private sector. Now, I've had 2 fundraising experiences, one here domestically in Nigeria and one in America. My list of people to fundraise from in Nigeria was capped at about 40 to 50 people. And if I go to every single person's fundraising list, those 40 to 50 names for every single project in the nation are still those 40 to 50 people. And these are popular people, they're the names that are coming to your heads right now as we're speaking. So when we say private sector resource mobilization, we really mean that same set of 40 to 50 people. When I started fundraising in America, I was able to get funds from people that I met on the spot, whose names don't even appear on Google, who people in their states don't even know them. but they were able to give the same amount of money when I was fundraising as the 40 to 50 people here, meeting them on the spot and relatively unknown people. So it makes me think about, I was thinking about this as I was formulating my next question, which is, do we need to create more domestic capital or simply be better at mobilizing the domestic capital that already exists to support programs like this?
I think it's really about improving the way we mobilize domestic capital. This is a very, very deep market, but very, very few people realize that. And if you think about all the pools of capital in the markets, you start, first and foremost with the capital markets, which are extremely deep. But for you to qualify to, get to the capital markets, you need to build a business that's scaled. You need to have some governance around you, and you need to have some degree of performance around you. But we also have an incredible pensions industry, which is one of the best pieces of regulation that this country has created over the last 25 years, where from a standing start 20 years ago, you now have somewhere around $25 billion of capital, and that capital cannot travel. That capital can't go and invest in South Africa. It can't invest in Botswana. It needs to invest in Nigeria. But up till now, it has focused primarily on investing in the government. Now, when you bear in mind that the government appears large, but the government is actually less than 7% of our GDP, then you recognize that it's a question of redirecting that capital and actually ensuring that that capital is financing predominantly private sector and private initiatives. I think it's also important to recognize that we have a lot of money in what we call the informal sector. We have a lot of money sitting in these markets in cash and outside of the banking sector. And if you look at even cash sitting in the banking sector, there's around 120 trillion of cash sitting in the banking sector. That's more than enough to finance a lot of our developmental issues. And the reality is that foreign capital will not come if domestic capital is not already investing. We are going to have to build and develop the asset management industry in this country, and that's what people like ourselves are doing. If you look on a global basis, asset managers manage somewhere around $200 trillion.
Sorry, because there's a lot of young people in the room, what's asset management?
Good. It's basically the business of managing money on behalf of third parties, whether those third parties are individuals or institutions or endowments, to deliver a return and also to support the attainment of the sustainable development goals. So the investment industry is a growing industry in this country and can be a significant part of solving many of these problems. So as an example today, as a firm, we finance infrastructure through a fund. We're the largest provider of financing for infrastructure in Naira in the country. We've created a fund for real estate. We'll be listing that before the end of this year on the stock exchange. It will be larger than all of the other REITs in Nigeria combined. We're financing the creative sector in Nigeria, in Naira. We're financing venture. We're financing renewable energy. And these are all sectors that are mission critical for job creation, but they're also mission critical for the future. So ultimately, it's about recognizing that since the end of the banking crisis, the global banking crisis, the rules that came in around Basel III make it very, very difficult for banks to be the major transmission mechanism for financing development. banks can only finance short term. Asset managers can finance, because of those structures, longer term. So I used to say to a late great friend of mine in the banking industry that if he wanted to follow me to finance an infrastructure project out to 20 years, he would have a nosebleed. Not because he wasn't running a big financing institution, but the banking rules make it difficult for banks to finance development. The second thing that's also important is when you look at our banks, they are doing very, very little to finance SMEs and MSMEs. And the reason often is two things. And even the BOI, with all the wonderful work that BOI does, BOI's rules require that BOI must take collateral. Invariably, young people don't have collateral. The second thing that providers of credit will also ask you is about experience. And every time you ask about experience, ultimately, you are discriminating without realizing it. Against young people, you're discriminating sometimes against women. So we're going to have to create these innovative blended finance structures that begin to ensure that you can provide capital and bring access to capital, which along with infrastructure are the two things that really prevent our businesses from scaling.
Thank you, Mr. Bolaji. My next question is to Vanessa. Nigeria is in a period of, shall I say, fiscal constraints, yet youth unemployment and the need for financing programs that provide skills for the youth has never been greater. What do you think are the roles of PPPs, blended finance, these kind of impact funds, these kind of instruments, and how can we ensure the sustainability? Because if you think back over the past 10, 15 years, there's been a lot of programs, but they've not been financially sustainable. And one quote that I really like that I saw when I was sort of preparing for this panel is every job created is a dividend of good financing. So we need to make sure that we're financing these projects sustainably. What is your opinion on the projects and how to achieve sustainability?
Thank you so much for that great question. I think the first thing when you look at job creation, you also look at the role of skills development, because you cannot sustain any job without the right skills. And there are various ways of making sure that we are supporting component of skills development. First of all, is to align our skills development with the needs of the labor market. So we need to make sure that the students that are coming out of our institutions of higher learning, they possess the skills and competencies that are required by this dynamic, evolving labor market. Oftentimes, we have institutions that are still built on curricula that is outdated, curricula that does not address what is needed on the ground. There is a role there for the private sector as well, because the private sector knows what skills they need. And how do we then involve the private sector in the articulation of the curriculum so that when we bring out students out of universities and colleges, we actually have students that can do the needful. The concern that we've heard, especially from employers, large employers, is that once investment has been done on a particular students, taking them through university, the moment they start work, the employer needs to commission more resources and funds to reskill, build this competency, build that capacity, and all of that takes additional funding and additional resources. So the alignment of skills development with the needs of the labor market is very, very important. That way we make sure that we continue producing future leaders that are competent to address the issues on ground and competent enough to navigate us through very difficult contexts and difficult situations. The other component is the investment in our TVET institution, technical vocational education training institutions. And there also the private sector has a very big role to play. And I've seen some countries that have dedicated sector skills bodies, for an example, either in pharmaceutical, manufacturing, energy, renewable energy, different kind of sectors that are actually on a regular basis engaging through those councils to say, are we still producing what is required? Are we still involving ourselves in articulating what the labor market requires? So for me, it's very important. So we need to really make sure that we contribute to the local value chains that are very important in sustaining growth in employment, and especially youth employment. And the most important thing is to make sure that the jobs that we create at the end of the day are actually the jobs that remain in Nigeria. And the resources that we put in order to develop our persons, those persons have opportunities to now come and engage and give back in terms of their competencies, and collectively we grow and build Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to close with a story of 2 tweets that I've read this week. One said that 9 to 5 will really mess with your love life. And somebody said, try unemployment. And the second one is a bit more serious. I tweeted about the takeover of a Chinese firm in Europe by a European country. And I said, that everybody says that government takeover is an Africa risk, but it's actually a global risk. And somebody under the tweet, a young person said, but it's 50 times more likely to happen in Nigeria. So I asked him, give me an example. In the last decade, despite the fact that Nigeria has had foreign competing in sensitive industries like petrochemicals, communication, agriculture, actually, I can't think of a single instance where the Nigerian government has taken over any foreign company. So the difference isn't really institutional. The reason why Nigeria has Nigerian businesses and Nigerian institutions have to pay a risk premium to access finance, to do all of this work, is actually perception.
Branding.
We have a foreign company that is the biggest communications company in this country. Government has not moved to take over that company. So we've allowed pessimism is 50 times more likely to happen in Nigeria to define our story. And that perception becomes policy, it becomes pricing, it becomes portfolio decisions, and it affects how investors allocate capital to us. And that's why programs like the Jubilee Fellows matter. Because when we invest in skills, when we invest in opportunity, when we invest in capacity, we don't just change individual lives, we reshape how the world sees our country. We're able to convert perception into confidence and confidence into capital. And that ultimately is the heart of sustainable finance, because hope, when it's well-financed and well-governed, is the most powerful form of capital that there is. Thank you so much to my amazing panel for your comments, and thank you all to the audience.
Can we put our hands together for this amazing panel? Thank you very much. Let me quickly welcome the UNDP representative, Elsa Tafwa, and Inga Stefanovic from the EU to please step forward here and join them for the photographs. The SSA to the president, Adegbe Akubo, please join us. My brother, they call you AI affectionately. AI. Afolabi Mokwede, please also join us there. Cameraman, are you happy? Thank you. As they step down now, please let's appreciate them with a round of applause, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. If you look at the program, you have things like commitment signing and outcome documents. Claire Henshaw, UNDP's head of inclusive growth and project lead, NJFP, will give a few words on that. Claire.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much to our excellent panelists. We deeply appreciate your presence. We don't take it for granted. To every one of you that has stayed on all through this session, we want to really appreciate you. Thank you very much. We have some of our fellows in-house. We want them to quietly also step out quietly too. That's the alumni, those that are supposed to be engaging with our employers. Please step out quickly, gently, quietly to start engaging. Once again, let me appreciate all of our special guests and panelists for flying all the way from different parts of the country to be here. I want to quickly share, particularly for our employers here and partners here and potential partners. We have a document called the Partnership Commitment Form. What this means is simply to seek your commitment and partnerships to ensure that you can contribute in various ways to the sustenance of the NJFP program. We are asking that you scan the form on your screen, and some of my colleagues may share hard copies. We have 3 forms of partnership on this program. One is the financial partnership, which is extremely important to continue to ensure that no one is left behind and to strengthen the talent pool across the country to build the workforce we all deserve. The second is technical partnerships, where you can provide services, where you can provide various support in the form of in-kind donations and contributions towards the NJFP. And finally, we have placements partnership, where you can ask and request for qualified talents to be a part of your organization. We're looking for outstanding placement opportunities so we can showcase the quality of fellows that NJFP 2.0 promises. In addition to that, we have been in at least 4 separate panels. We want to inform you that all of the conversations and the key outcomes from each of this session will be collated and turned into an outcome document. Each and every one of you that have registered for this program, you will receive a copy. But more importantly is that this document will be used as an advocacy tool to work towards ensuring that we have a much more informed document and solution to some of the issues plaguing us around various topics of interest. And more importantly, at the steering committee level of the NJFP, that is chaired by the Vice President and co-chaired by UNDP and some of our MDAs, we expect that this document will not just serve as one of those documents that we keep somewhere. It will be used to continue to drive strong engagements across the country, bringing in partners and helping to form and shape policy as we go. Finally, before we call in the closing speaker, I want to really appreciate my boss, Madam Elsie, our partners, the EU, for being outstanding. The support we have received has been phenomenal. I want to appreciate our panelists. So many of you came in very last minute, changing your schedules just so that you can be here because you take this very seriously. We'll be following up with each and every one of you, particularly our panelists, to see how we can strengthen what we have started here with each and every one of you. Thank you so much. We wish you all the best as you head back to your various destinations. But more importantly, let me thank the amazing and outstanding team that made this happen. From the Office of the Vice President Delivery Unit Head, Mr. Kubo Adegbe, to AI Afolabi, as we call him, Afolabi Mokede. Thank you so much. I could not have done this without you. And of course, you also couldn't have done this without me. Thank you so much. And again, to the amazing and outstanding team UNDP, my colleagues, Zainab, Chiedu, all of you. I cannot mention all your names. You know yourselves. Thank you so very much. Our fellows and alumni, I cannot appreciate you enough. Thank you for staying true. I know the room is cold. Now you can grab some tea and while we do the closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So our closing remarks will come from the Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Dr. Doris Uzoka Anite, represented here by her special advisor, a very brilliant cerebral man, Dr. Abubakar Lawal, who has the closing remarks. Please. Make a choice, this or this.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Permit me to please to stand on existing protocol. Firstly, I'd like to express the Honorable Minister's profound apologies for not being able to return here this afternoon. She had actually wished to deliver her remarks in person, but unfortunately, she has been pinned back in the office dealing with some urgent national matters, and therefore has asked that I deliver her kind remarks. Thank you. It is a great honor to join you at the official flag-off of the Nigeria Jubilee Fellows Program and the high-level National Dialogue on Youth Employment and Entrepreneurship. Today's event marks yet another milestone in our collective commitment to empowering Nigeria's young people, the most dynamic and creative segment of our population, with the skills, exposure, and opportunities they need to build prosperous futures for themselves and for our nations. The Nigeria Jubilee Fellows Program is a flagship model of partnership between the federal government of Nigeria, the European Union, and the United Nations Development Program. Conceived in 2021, was designed to bridge the critical gap between learning and earning by connecting young graduates to meaningful work placements, mentorship, and enterprise opportunities across both public and private sectors. Globally, the NJFP draws inspiration from similar fellowship programs supported by the UNDP and national governments, such as South Africa's Presidential Youth Employment Stimulus, India's National Apprenticeship Promotion Scheme, and youth livelihood initiatives across Latin America and Southeast Asia. These initiatives share a common goal: to give young people a fair start in life by turning education into employability and potential into productivity. Through its first phase, the NJFP has already transformed thousands of lives across Nigeria. Many of our fellows have transitioned into full-time employment, launched their own businesses, or become catalysts of innovation within their host organizations and communities. This success story reflects what can be achieved when strategic partnerships are backed by strong governance, effective design, and a shared vision for youth empowerment. As we launch NJFP 2.0, with a cohort of over 24,000 fellows to be placed across the country over the next 10 months, we are building on this success and taking a decisive step towards achieving our national goal of 100,000 youth placements within 5 years. From the fiscal policy perspective, the Ministry of Finance recognizes that investing in people, particularly our youth, is central to sustainable economic growth. Our policies and reforms are therefore deliberately geared towards expanding opportunities for decent work and enterprise creation. Through tax incentives and business-friendly reforms, we are easing the burden on startups and micro, small, and medium enterprises, which are the largest employers of young people in Nigeria. Through initiatives like the Investment in Digital and Creative Enterprise, IDICE program, and the Development Bank of Nigeria, we are unlocking access to finance for young innovators and entrepreneurs in the digital, creative, and green sectors. Under the National Development Plan between 2021 and 2025, we are prioritizing investment in productive sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, digital economy, and renewable energy that have the highest potential for job creation and youth participation. And through public-private partnerships, we are catalyzing blending financing instruments that attract private capital to youth-focused enterprise and social innovation. These interventions reflect our ministry's firm belief that fiscal policy must not only stabilize the economy, but also create opportunities for Nigerians to thrive, particularly our young people who are the foundation of our nation's competitiveness. The Nigeria Jubilee Fellows Program embodies the same philosophy that with the right investment in talent, Nigeria can unleash a new generation of leaders, innovators, entrepreneurs who will shape the country's economic future. I commend the European Union and the UNDP for their steadfast partnership and commitment to Nigeria's development aspirations. I applaud the thousands of young Nigerians who have embraced this journey. Your creativity, resilience, optimism remains our nation's greatest assets. Together, let us continue to translate potential into productivity, ensure that every skilled Nigerian youth finds a place in the nation's unfolding story of innovation, enterprise, and shared prosperity. I thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have a very blissful evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abubakar Lawal, Social Advisor to the Honorable Minister of State for Finance. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. But I appreciate all of you that has kept faith and stayed till now. It's so important to know that all of you have the fire of Miss Elsie Atafwa. She's fire with 2 legs. I appreciate you for your commitment to Nigeria. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. For all your team that has worked, and Claire, do you know Claire will call me at times at 12 midnight just to make sure this is done. Well done. Well done. I appreciate it. So I thank you, all of you. We are planting trees that we might not sit under its shade, but our children and other people's children will sit under it. The focus is building a national workforce for the future. God bless all of you. Have a wonderful evening. Good night. As we are going, take your takeaway pack. Take your takeaway pack. Thank you.